Waves crashing along the lakeshore. The sun beating down. Perhaps a book or cold drink in your hand. Your favorite summertime spot. It's a typical Michigan tradition for many Michiganders.
But this year, life along the Great Lakes has been a little bit more challenging. High winds, high waves, and high water levels have wreaked havoc along the shoreline. So we decided to check out how some local tourist towns are handling the problem and what they expect to do for the summer season.
The city of South Haven, southwest of Grand Rapids, is one of those communities that's facing the challenges of lakeshore flooding and erosion.
What we are seeing is impacts from the high water levels affecting all of our riverfront and waterfront areas.
Kate Hosier, Assistant City Manager and Harbor Master for the city of South Haven, says one of the biggest challenges paying the high cost of any damage and prevention measures, mostly related to infrastructure. Work in the parks, improvements to the harbor, or beach erosion measures, it all adds up. The final cost, an estimated $8 to $16 million, according to a report submitted to a Michigan House subcommittee focused on the environment. That price also includes work being done along the waterfront areas that are popular during the summer tourism season, like local marinas. The potential cost for that, anywhere from $2 to $6 million.
As the lake levels rise, we're going to see them probably, the water levels be above the docks this year.
And that water already rose over the docks a few times in 2019, and with water levels projected to rise even further this year, that could have a big impact on boaters. With that in mind, the city explored a high water policy for the summer months ahead.
The waters do rise as is projected by the Corps of Engineers, that we may delay opening. Typically we open April 15th, but we may delay it till May or June or whenever we feel that the water levels are down safely enough. Unfortunately, that may mean that they may not open due to the water levels.
Not only could these problems impact boaters, but also those just looking to take a load off in the sand. We brought the TV5 drone to capture some of the damage in Van Buren State Park, also in South Haven. The sidewalk access to the beach washed away. Yards of sand for beachgoers now underwater, with water nearly up to the dunes. Despite this, the city is fortunate enough to have 7 bathing beaches. Hosier tells us although your favorite spot might be affected, there's still plenty of beach to go around.
It will probably change people's bathing beaches preference. So if you can't go to South Beach, maybe you'll go to North Beach. There's still quite a bit of sand there.
So what's causing all these issues? Well, the wet pattern we've seen over the long term certainly isn't helping. Most notably, the last 2 years in the state of Michigan have been the wettest on record. 5 of the all-time wettest years have also occurred since 2010. And if that weren't enough, we've only had 1 drier than normal year since 2008. It's also worth noting there's no other time in the past 125 years with so many years in a row of wetter than normal conditions. And that's a big part of the problem.
The 3 main components we're tracking is precipitation, evaporation, and runoff. For example, these last 2 months in this winter, we've seen a fairly warm December and January, which has increased the runoff in the basin and also reduced evaporation during this time as well. And that's played an important role in the lakes over just these last 2 months.
So is there any hope for some relief along the shorelines, or is this becoming a long-term trend?
How long high water could last, that's really up to Mother Nature. We suspect at some point we would transition back to either, near average or low water, but when that will occur is very uncertain.
There's no doubt the water levels on the Great Lakes are concerning, especially for those who live along the shoreline. But for many of us who plan vacations and other activities in these areas, while the impacts may force you to be a little more flexible with your plans, the summer fun will go on.
From the shores of Lake Michigan, meteorologist Chris Eastlick, WNEM TV5.